My following guest is one of the world's leading classical philologists and experts in ancient Greek, who was famously accused of demon possession and portal opening by the Catholic Church before he was ejected by his university. Due to the highly disturbing nature of this episode, it had to be heavily censored with parts redacted. I know you can handle it, but YouTube can't. If you really want to see the parts that were cut out and avoid the ads, it's available on Patreon. Hammer that subscribe button below and enjoy the show.
All right, kiddos, we are rolling.
Yeah. Welcome back, brother.
Hail Satan.
How's that tobacco?
Oh, God, it's wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Of course. It's my pleasure. My pleasure. You caused a ruckus on that first podcast we did.
Okay.
And I've learned so much since that first podcast.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Some of the texts that we're going to go into today are going to make me want to throw up. So I brought my barf bag. I'm ready. The Greeks were sickos. The Greeks were into some nasty shit.
Yeah. Yeah, so was Jesus. I've got a text for you today about Jesus that we're going to go with him out in the back. And
in the back alley?
No, he takes her up into the woods.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you a text that's going to make your skin crawl. But this is the way, brother.
We've been trying to set up a proper debate with you and a biblical scholar, and we can't get anyone to step in here and talk to you. I think people are afraid of not just what you're saying, but your performative behavior, I think, really confuses and terrifies people.
Oh God, I love it, don't you? Doesn't that make it special?
I think it makes it great. It makes it so much more fun.
Why do you think they run?
Like I said, I think they run because they don't know. I think they're terrified by the performative behavior that you put on. Yeah. You're theatrical in the way that you translate this stuff and the way that you teach this stuff on your YouTube channel. It's fun. And it's cinematic and it's thought provoking.
Yeah, no, you're very generous. That's why I like you, Danny Jones, because you're very generous. I appreciate that. The thing that really draws me that I want people to understand is the souls of the people. Once you show them the reality, oh God, it's like you break open some kind of new portal and you're able to push the person through, and it's like they come alive. And the basis of that are the texts. And the reason people are afraid is, this beautiful, beautiful thing that we have called ancient Greek, this mother who's so sexy. You have to really know what you're doing and have experience and training in the language and all of our evidence from antiquity. I wouldn't just sit here and make up stuff with you, Danny. I wouldn't. All of our evidence from antiquity, that's what I handle, and people are afraid of that, right? People are afraid of that. So good. That's why I'm going to show you today Jesus engaging in sexual, drug-induced cult with Mary. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. It's just a text. People ask me, Dan, I wanted to say, and that's one of the things I put on the interview, misconceptions. People have misconceptions about me. They do. I don't have any opinions or judgments. I'm not selling you a theory. I have nothing. That's why Lady Babylon on YouTube is not monetized. I have a contract with the devil. Everybody knows that. I'm open. I can't make a cent on this. So that scares people too. That
does scare people.
Yeah.
And I think that's metal as fuck that you do that.
Awesome.
Because explain why you don't want to bring money into this. Do you think that bringing money into the stuff that you're doing and kind of poisons the well?
Yeah, beautifully. I'll put that back on, but
go ahead.
Beautifully. I need to participate in this.
Yeah,
because you just hit the nail on the head. You poison the well of inspiration when you sell it. The minute that you take that coin, the material loses its attachment to the reality behind the quantum physics that they called the muse. Right? You have to keep that well pure. And that's why the devil's writing it into all the contracts. You can't get what you want. You can't get that esoteric knowledge. You can't get that vision of what is that quantum reality, right? Without the integrity. The Greeks said it this way in a chorus of Furies. They said, your greed stains your soul with the stench of ruin. So it's a process of, all the Greek religion is a process of purification. That mystery religion, those are all purifications. That's one of the pollutions, man, is that greed. So that's why I can't monetize Lady Babylon. And I don't want to make any money. She's not I'm not hooking. You know what I mean? It's brothelery. Yeah. There's a lot of brothelery. YouTube smells like a brothel, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. A lot of brothelery. And that taints the material. The muse isn't going to speak to you, baby. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, and you're not beholden to anything. You're not beholden to any sort of any institution, any university,
correct,
anything like that. You're, like you said the last time, you're Ronin.
Right.
You're completely detached from anything.
Right. It gives me a freedom. Some of the stuff that I'm going to tell you today, some of the stuff that I'm going to bring you is I could only bring you because I am not a professor anymore, and I am not in any academic institution.
Sorry to interrupt. For people that maybe didn't watch the first episode, tell us your actual academic history.
Just really quick, classics, Ph.D., right? Masters, of course, classics, but also bacteriology. Love it. Got a little molecular biology background. Love it. Lab work. Oh, God, I love those heads. Brains. Give me brains. By the way, Danny, can I just say, you are setting up something gorgeous here, bringing people together to be able to look at this material and to be able to engage at this level. That's fantastic. That's better than journalism. That's the beginning of the end, man. That's. Oh God, I love it.
So last time you were on here, the first show we did, I made it clear up front that I wasn't prepared for the conversation we had. Although I read your book and I listened to your podcast with Hamilton, but like going back to like how I started the conversation to explaining your performative way of teaching this stuff, it has inspired me to be fascinated in these things and continue to dive down this rabbit hole. And I've invited like half a dozen people on the show since to either corroborate what you're saying or shut down what you're saying, or at least show some sort of counter evidence or give me some more context to what you're saying, because there's nobody else that's saying what you're saying.
Yeah.
You can't, or at least I can't find it.
Right. There wouldn't be.
So, and that's like a common thread on this show. Yeah. I will typically have people on here that will say something, right, that many people won't agree with. And then other people will reach out and say, hey, this guy's full of shit. Let me come present my evidence, right?
Which is good. That's a gymnasium.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
the ancient Greek gymnasium.
Correct.
It's wrestling.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, a lot of people made videos kind of like responding to what you were saying, like edited videos, calling out bullshit on you, saying that you messed up, you were lying, you were taking stuff out of context. Yet we So people know, we quite literally reached out to, I don't know, Steve, what was it? 2-3 dozen scholars?
Yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot. I asked an AI to give me like a list of 50, and half of them were dead.
We a few of them were from Harvard. A few of them classical philologists from Harvard. Theologians, biblical scholars. All of which
Juicy.
said they would not be comfortable to come debate you.
Let me tell you again.
So I got to keep rolling with this until I can find somebody
Yes.
to prove you wrong.
We just want to talk about the Bible.
We just want to talk about the Bible.
You've got to bait them, Danny. You've got to bait them. Look, if this is going to work out as my place of feasting, you've got to bait these people better. Right? They know. Here's the problem. What makes them afraid? What makes them afraid? It is that old reason that sits in our brain and tells us, I don't believe in fairy tales. I want some science. And they know that that's what a classical philologist does, is they work with the science of the language. And when you look at these texts, it's going to blow your whole mind of what you thought the world was.
Did you say on the last podcast, or have you ever said that you're the only one who knows this stuff and reads this stuff?
No. Any classicist, and there's a few who have started studying Galen, right? Any classicist can come to you and say, hey, the sources that he's talking about, like Nero's arch-physician that's in Galen, that talks about the drugs that are being used in the death rites, him, and they can look it up. They can go to their classes. They can go look it up. They can check the Greek out.
Right.
Now, classical departments have been falling behind, and that's why it's particular to me. That's why you don't have hundreds of people coming up and say, oh my God, did you know Christ is a drug?
Right.
Right? You don't have people doing that. So your guys at Harvard or Yale, those people are smart enough to know that I'm just talking text, and they can tell whether or not I'm a trained classical scholar, right? What you call a philologist. Is that dude a classical philologist? They can tell.
Right.
And unfortunately, the fakers and the phonies can tell as well, and that's why when you invite people and they don't come, it's because they're unable to. One of the people that you invited is now on a big show. Correct?
Oh, yes. Yeah, because he did a debate with somebody that blew up.
Right. And he's not here now.
No, he's not here.
No.
But in all fairness, he's a very busy guy. He had a lot of stuff going on in his life, and you get a call from that show, and you kind of have to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sad. It's a shame. But the way I understand it is there's like the Bible, and then there's Christianity that is like this veneer that people don't like to look through. They don't like to look past that. But behind that, there's a whole nother universe of history with all this other stuff, from poetry to comedy to musical stuff to philosophy to medical texts. That is just like, once you can penetrate that veil of Christianity and the church, there's so much more to learn.
Yeah, you got it. Listen to that. You just cracked the ages. You know what I mean? Right? When you see through that Christian filter, and I don't want to say Christian, it's a monist filter, because the same thing happened to the Egyptians, like in the 14th century BC. They had a monism that came along, one God, and everybody's one God, and everybody else has to be ignored, and forget her, Lady Justice, and those were the followers of Aten, right? And anyway, whether it's Ottanism or Christianity or Judaism or Islam, those are monist traditions, and monist traditions follow patterns in history. And if you can penetrate that monist lens and get back down to the classical civilization, you can explain what those very earliest Christians were doing, because their writings are at the same time. Here's the big problem, people. This is why the world is so screwy, and why the history that you think you know is not the accurate history. It's not the factual history.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by TrueWork, a clothing company that is hell-bent on bringing you the most technical, high-performance workwear in the world. The TrueWork story begins in the Colorado mountains, where a trade worker knew there had to be a better solution than the wet, heavy gear that was weighing him down. Then TrueWork was born. TrueWork pants are perfect for me because I don't have to sacrifice looks and comfort to have a tactical, practical pair of pants that are built to get shit done. I love TrueWork because it's not only durable and rugged, but it is also comfortable and stretchy, which you can't find in any other work pants. Every TrueWork product is engineered for maximum efficiency, comfort, and protection. And when you put them on, you can feel the difference. When I put on cotton or denim pants, I can literally feel the 200-year difference in technology. TrueWork upgrades traditional classics with fabrics used by elite outdoor athletes. Soft, stretchy, sweat-wicking soft shell work pants are a huge upgrade over stiff, heavy jeans. Wind and waterproof shells use intelligently placed insulation for streamlined warmth and lets you stay mobile and agile. TrueWork has over 50,000 five-star reviews and countless stories from trade pros in every state and every job across the country. Upgrade to TrueWork for a major change in the way you work. TrueWork helps you be your best when your best matters most. Check out their full lineup and get 15% off your first order at truework.com/Danny. That's TRUEWERK.com/Danny. It's linked below. Now back to the show.
Because you're looking through a lens of theology. You're looking through a lens, and it's distorting the way that you're perceiving the world. And the reason you're doing that is because the focus was narrowed to the biblical or Christian or monist texts. So outside of that world is an entire other world. It's what surrounds it and makes it operate like Christ. Jesus didn't show up and become the first Christ.
The first Christ was Lady Babylon.
The first linguistic reference we've got to an historical person, the Queen of Babylon, the Medea, she is first portrayed as Christing herself. But when Jesus is there, 1,000 years later, when he's doing his thing, that word is going to be very important. It's history and everything about it. People, here's what I mean. Let me crack the lens a little bit for you. There are 5 words in Greek, ancient Greek. They are the most prominent words that you're going to hear in Christianity. And those 5 words are all drug terms. They're all drug terms. Are you ready? Christ, Savior, baptism, mystery, and what's the 5th?
Resurrection?
No. Oh, God, I forgot the 5th. I'll think of it in a minute. Where's that?
Too much tobacco.
I need some more of the tobacco to jog my memory. But all of those, gospel, see, it works. Gospel. People don't realize it. That's the beautiful one. Can I?
Of course.
Please.
Of course. Yeah. Sorry.
Tobacco. Yay. What is the? Oh God, where's my lighter paper?
It's there, isn't it?
How can
is it
you,
under this? There it is. There it is. Under the Pope hat.
It's under my hat. Gospel. People don't realize that the word gospel is the word that you use when a drug is given to a person. It's the drug's efficacy. The gospel is what brings you salvation. Salvation, right? And remember, there's no clear delineation between drug use and religion and medicine. Those are all part of the same world. This is why you have prophets anybody knows, and this is I'm going to rock the world with this. Are you ready? And people are going to be, oh, how can he say that? Look at the text, people. The only thing that a prophet designates is somebody who sees visions via drugs.
And prophets were people who were bombed on drugs in antiquity.
Not just bombed, but, like integrated into their whole...
They were like shamans?
Repertoire, yeah, that you could touch their clothing and everybody knew you're going to get some kind of blessing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, a vision, perhaps. A vision. I'm sorry, am I yelling in your ear?
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Fine. No, it's great.
A vision.
But what do you say to all the people online? There was many of them who said and people that I've had on this podcast since that say there is this semantic range and the word Christ had many different meanings. And just because that you say it was a drug term doesn't mean that that's the only meaning it had. There were many other readings, and you're broad brushing the word Christ to mean what you want it to mean.
Those people don't read classical Greek. All of those critics, right?
Mm-hmm.
None of them actually does classical Greek. If they did, they wouldn't make such a stupid statement, right? The role of the classical philologist, the job is to find that lexical reality. What does that word mean? And so what you do is when you read works over a period of 1,000 years, because remember, that's what we do. We read stuff that takes place over 1,000 years. Okay, so it's not just like, this is not, I tell my students, you're not just learning English. You're not just learning English or German or French.
Right.
Right? You're learning over a millennium, 2 millennia. You're following the track of the Logos. I love you, Mr. Box. You're tracking the arc of the Logos, right? And that's why those terms like that, there's a whole physics behind it and whatnot. And the classicist has actually had the privilege, if they're good, of reading everything around, right, over a 2,000-year span. Boom. And then when somebody comes to you with a text, for example, the Bible, right, you've got a broad context of where that thing sits and where the meaning has drifted or not drifted or augmented or changed, right, because that's what meaning does. Mm-hmm. That's why they say semantic drift and whatnot.
Semantic drift, right? The meaning changes over time.
Yes, right, because they're living. They grow and they develop, they age and they die. Right. Language is living for anybody who didn't figure that out.
What is the semantic drift of the word Christ?
Yeah, it starts out as the bite. It's the bite of the fly.
The gadfly.
The gadfly, right? Which brings you the oestrus. Now, wait a minute. You say, stop. It's the culture. What are they using? They're using arrow poisons.
When is this? What year?
So, say late Bronze Age.
Late Bronze, so that's
late Bronze Age. You could say like 1600 to 1000.
Okay.
Right? Just talk about that period of the Bronze Age, right? This is when all this tech is coming about, and it's all coming through arrow poisons. The very words in Greek are what betray this, right? In addition to all the references. Right? Now, you can say Iohiaira, the poison.
Where do the arrow poisons come from? Is that snake venom?
That's Black Sea stuff, baby. It's Black Sea stuff. And it's coming from combos of venoms, combos.
Okay.
Which is incredible.
Right. Multiple venoms mixed together.
Multiple venoms mixed together. And they're blending it up. Even the midwives are using it to deliver children and stuff
and
like
that. And the Medusae would shampoo their hair in this venom.
Well, it said they carried the venom in their hair.
And they would wrap their hair around
shampoo it. But
okay, well,
I'd probably just oil it up. I've never had the pleasure of oiling up a Medusa, but I can imagine, that hair is the container for that eos, they called it.
Right.
So do you understand why they had prophets and oracles? Because they were using the eos. Now, this is something, look, I'll give you something fresh.
Okay.
Because I know that's old material, man. I told you that, baby. What's the fresh stuff? You know that rod? You know what I brought you today?
No, go ahead. I'm just kidding.
I have brought to you the Rod of Hermes. Oh, God. It's like that guy's rod. Yeah, they knocked them all off. Alcibiades, those f***ers. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and anyway, the rod. Oh, God. This is something people don't know. The serpent. 2 serpents wound around a rod. Do you know what that...
Copulation.
No. God damn it, no.
Well, I heard Ruck talking about this. Carl Ruck said, when you see a serpent copulate, it opens a portal to another dimension. And also when you see a serpent copulate, you have a sex change. What the f*** does that mean?
Because he knows in the cave of Eternitas, above the entrance is the Ouroboros. He knows that. So he knows that's the snake that consumes itself.
Oh, okay.
Right. That he's talking about. Yeah, definitely. He's talking about that old, oh, God, Earth Mother, the first oracle. Definitely.
The skeptic.
Now, why is it between the rod? What is it separating? The rod is separating 2. It's separating 2 snakes.
Right.
It is dote and antidote.
Right. That's what you explained last time.
No. I didn't explain that last time because I just learned that. It's dote and antidote.
By the way, can you... Yeah. It is kind of a terrifying image, the image of 2 snakes having sex. Yeah. Have you seen it?
Not having sex. But
can you look it up, Steve? Just type in snakes mating.
Do they have their anal flaps open?
It's crazy looking.
They have dual peens. They have, what do they call those?
You find it, Steve?
Yeah, hold.
Hemipene.
My algorithm is fucked up.
Snakes have
just images, not
penises.
Just go to images.
2 heads. Google. 2-headed penis.
The snake does?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, God. I massage my snake's
Look at that. Look at that right there.
What?
Oh, this thing?
Yeah, look at that. What? How wild is that? They're like braid themselves together.
Yeah. They love it.
And I'm sure they bite each other.
Yeah, you rub them. Oh, God. Look at it comes out. Where's the hemipene? Show us. Give us. It's dual-headed. What the hell? It's dual-headed.
What does that mean when you see a snake? Look at that on the right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
We're just enjoying snake.
Yeah, we're watching snake porn right now.
I love that. It's a dance, huh?
Watching a snake is like opening a portal to another dimension, says Ruck.
Yeah, it's getting me going, that's for sure. I'll tell you that. Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Ruck. Appreciate that.
So the semantic drift of the semantic drift of the word Christ.
Yeah.
Christ starts in the Bronze Age, late Bronze Age.
Yes.
That's the first time we ever see the word Christ.
No, it's the first reference to an individual who was from that period.
It's a first reference to an individual.
Yeah, who was Christing.
And who is that individual?
Medea. That's the oldest one that we've got. So we know that the concept.
The first time we ever see the word Christ.
It's the first time we ever see it's the earliest don't say it's the first.
Okay, sorry.
It's the reference to the earliest Christing historical person. Reference to the first time we see someone was, somebody got Christed.
Okay.
Yeah.
But was the term ever, do we find that word anytime in literature earlier than that?
No. Oh, in literature earlier than that. Oh, yeah, no. There's a whole bunch.
There is?
Euripides is earlier. That's a historical reference. Right, so that's a historian, a Greek historian. Remember, the Greeks invented history, right?
And how is Euripides using
the
word?
He's using it the same way. He's using
it
for a sex drug.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's never different from the fact that it's a drug.
It's always
always
drug.
a fucking drug, people. Right? It always is a drug.
Right. It's a new year, and maybe you want to build something yourself or be your own boss, like Steve, the faceless producer who wants to sell spaceman necklaces.
This is true, Danny. I am faceless.
Do you have some new ideas you've been kicking around? Shopify is how you're going to make that happen, and you should start now. With Shopify, creating your brand and getting your first sale is simple. No coding, no problem. With thousands of customizable templates, all you need to do is drag and drop. In minutes, your store can go from a blank canvas to a professional storefront that's uniquely you. And Shopify has powerful social media tools. Connect all your channels and turn those casual scrollers into paying customers with shoppable posts. Because let's face it, people are already scrolling. Why not make it work for your business? Shopify handles the heavy lifting, shipping, taxes, payments, and an all-in-one, easy-to-use dashboard. That means you can focus on what really matters, growing your dream into a thriving business. So what happens if you don't start now? Will you regret it? What if someone else beat you to your idea? Don't let what-ifs hold you back. Your idea deserves a chance. Your future business will thank you. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Danny Jones, all lowercase. Again, that's shopify.com/Danny Jones to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/Danny Jones. With Shopify, your first sale is closer than you think.
So I don't, the only reason, and people will say, Danny, you're being bamboozled.
Right.
Right?
Everyone's saying that.
How does this one guy come up with this thing that nobody else knows? You know why? Because I've read the medical literature. Right? The first time I saw it, it kind of excited me too. I was like, wait a minute, did that just say somebody Christed someone? Yeah. Surprised me.
When is the first time it is... So... Starting, it goes, Euripides talked about it before Medea.
Yeah.
And then...
No, Euripides talked about it before the historian who wrote about Medea.
Before the historian
Before
who wrote
he
about,
wrote.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is hard to navigate the history because we're talking about things that happened, then we're talking about when it was written
it's
about.
Over 2,000 years.
Right.
God, it's so confusing.
Yeah. So when is the first time the word Christ is used in a different way? That's not a drug term.
It's never used in a different way. That's not a fucking drug term. I'm sorry. I gotta stop the F-bombs. I should put the hat back on.
When did they start saying that it was something different? It was what did Dan McClellan say? Dan McClellan said it meant a revolutionary. When did that come about? When did they start saying it meant a revolutionary?
It never does. They're smoking a
Oh no,
theology.
never mind. He said laistace meant revolutionary.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, that's
He
the
said-
same. That's the same drug he's using, though. It's the same drug he's using, right? You put up a boundary. Here's what happens. You said in the very beginning, which is genius. There's you reach a point where Christianity took over the writing of the history and the analysis, the education.
Mm-hmm.
And when they did, you lost something, right? We're looking at that, but we haven't penetrated yet that lens. That's still theology.
Yes.
That you're getting. It's always a Christing. But
So it's always a Christing
later-
until the church.
Yeah, until it becomes a tradition in the church.
Right.
And then they define what this thing is.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
Okay.
So
And Bible scholars wouldn't know this because Bible scholars don't read medical texts.
No.
They don't read philosophical texts. They stick to the Gospels.
I can bring any Bible scholar in here, and I hope this doesn't scare you away. Because I'm waiting. I'm so hungry, Danny. I'm so hungry.
This is an open invitation for anyone. And I think it would make it better if we got two Bible scholars in here.
Yeah.
To debate you.
Oh, God.
So it's 2 verse 1. The table's a little lopsided.
Do it once. Yeah, no, it's
Or classicist,
Yeah.
Bible scholar, anybody.
Yeah, any classicist, right? Come sit here. Let's talk about it. Isn't it wonderful they're talking about it? You know what I mean? Hey, classicists should be drawn like flies.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
right.
They should love this stuff.
Right.
Yeah, classicists.
Is there any reason they would be afraid to do this? Not in the aspect of getting things wrong or getting quote unquote steamrolled by you, but like, would they get any sort of backlash from their universities? Or they like lose tenure for engaging with you and talking about this stuff.
Traditionally, I don't know about the atmosphere right now, but
Right.
traditionally, classicists don't mingle with biblical scholars.
Right.
Why?
I'm talking about another classicist.
Because it was their text, right? And they don't want people saying things about their texts. You could get yourself in big trouble if you start talking about what's in there, right? You can. It's very easy. I'm telling you. There is stuff. Oh, I'm going to show you today a new one. You guys are going to love this. Oh, God. Eat my ejaculation, says Jesus Christ. It's alive. Yeah.
So that's what he told Mary on the mountain?
Yeah. In the woods. He took her out in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually read about this on a previous podcast that we did with somebody. Who remember we like read through this
Did you? Okay.
on a recent pod. We saw it on a blog post where there was a guy, he was calling it it was a Bart Ehrman or something.
Bart Ehrman.
Bart
is that
Ehrman.
right?
Yeah. He was explaining this the something about Mary, and he talked about how Jesus was making Mary eat his
The greater letters of Mary.
greater. Yes, that's no. He was calling it the greater questions.
No,
of Mary.
that's it. Is it's questions.
Questions
It's
of Mary. Yeah.
It is. Oh God, what do you do? It's a clear reference. And by the way, it's one thing I can do is I can unlock for you the fact that when Jesus talks at that moment about bringing the woman from his side. People always think, and you think back to Eve and the presentation of Eve in the Septuagint, which was a Hellenistic document, if and not a Hebrew one, never was. And when you think about what he did when he said it brought a woman out of his side, is a process of, I can show you the text, is a process of sexual activity. And engaging the flanks. Have you ever engaged a woman in the flank? Oh, do you understand what I'm saying? You put that energy into the flank. Boom! Bring it from both sides. Shoot it right in there. You know what I mean?
Both sides?
Yeah. Boom! Just shoot it right in. You know what I mean? And it's the sex cult. That's the thing that's so cool about this is there's a lot of sex cult stuff going on.
Yeah. No,
And,
you made that clear last time.
Yeah, and it says that it says in the text, in the Greek text. Now remember, people, how is this person getting this stuff? How is Ammon getting this stuff? It's just text out there in Greek, and you can look at these, people. And this one says something beautiful. This one says something beautiful. It says the kids were afraid of the drugs. They were afraid of the drugs that Jesus was talking about.
The kids
using.
were?
Yeah, because he wanted them to eat his ejaculate. That's what it says. He engaged Mary sexually out in the woods. And then he said, you've got to eat. You've got to eat my aporoya. You've got to eat my ejaculate. That's life, right? Eat my flesh and
who wrote
drink
that?
my hyma. And people say hyma means blood.
They want to
You look
change the
at-
meaning of the words, yeah.
Oh my God! Just look at the text, people. It's really cool. I'm sorry, Danny, to go on a rant like that. Yeah, go ahead. What's next?
No, I was just going to ask you who wrote that Questions of Mary, the story about him being on the mountain with Mary and doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. No fucking clue.
But didn't you read it?
Yeah.
You read the primary.
Oh yeah, we have the text, but who knows who wrote? You mean who wrote it originally?
Yeah.
No, who knows?
Oh.
I don't know. Does it matter who? Like, this is biblical scholars. They sit there and you wrote this. Oh God, it doesn't say.
So when you
document
but when
is
you
the
read
evidence.
But when you read the document, don't you consider where it came from and when it came from, or no?
You do, but you determine that through the language.
Oh.
Yeah.
So by reading the Greek, you can figure out who wrote it and when?
You are trained as a classical philologist to be able to read Greek from the late Bronze Age, right? You from into the right. That goes into the linear B. From that period down, okay, starting with Homer, working your way all the way forward to 1000 Anno Domini, where you're reading Homeric scholars who are writing ancient, who are writing Byzantine explanations and commentaries of Homer, right? Because remember, Homer is the way that we teach grammar, right? It's a science. And you program somebody. That's why the second thing on my little thing here was, why are we so far behind the Greeks? Right? Listen to their education. It's music. It's in 3 branches. Music, grammata, grammar, right? And gymnasium, where you and I are going to get naked together. Steve's going to watch.
And what's the gymnasium?
Yeah, I'm telling you, we're going to get naked together.
Okay.
And then
with the candles?
No.
And the
candles.
Bible. We got the Bible.
Well, no, we don't need the Bible then.
We need the Bible if we're going to get naked.
Not in the gymnasium.
Okay.
Not in the gymnasium. We're going to get naked and we're going to get oiled up. Mm-hmm. And you and I are going to slug it out. We're going to put some bands on.
Okay.
Right? To prevent any serious damage. You know
Oiled
what I mean?
up, butt naked, boxing. MMA. Ancient MMA.
Right. Wrestling. We're going to practice submission and taking somebody down and submitting them. So their education, the standard Greek education, is 1/3 music, 1/3 grammar, the spoken language, and 1/3 MMA. Yeah.
No math?
It's part of, believe it or not, it's part of MMA.
The math is part of MMA?
Yeah, you got everybody sitting in the stands. You know what they're doing? They're reading Pythagoras, baby. Right? These are Greeks, man. Where do you think libraries come from? They didn't come from any civilization but one alone. That was the greatest language, the most complex language. And everybody's sitting looking at everybody's sitting looking at the pyramids. Oh, God. Big deal.
The pyramids?
The pyramids.
Not impressed.
Not impressed.
Why?
Rocks piled upon rocks by a bunch of sweaty slaves. And do you understand why we can't figure out how they built the things? Because they weren't smart enough to develop a language that would allow them to describe it, to hand it down to us. If you read anything, any sort of translation from Egyptian, read it. I had to read the medical stuff, right? Because I was looking at their technical level. You read the Book of the Dead, man. You read by the way, the whole Middle Eastern thing too, all you scholars out there, and the Middle Eastern thing, you know that language is garbage.
What language is that?
You know, it's all of them. The Assyrian, the Akkadian, all of them. Now, the Assyrians had a little bit of medicine. That was it, though. Right? Read the Epic of Gilgamesh. Oh, my God. Listen, people. I already set this up.
What is the Epic of Gilgamesh? That's written in Sumerian?
Yeah, there's several. Sumerian and Babylonian. Okay. Akkadian, I think, is in there. Mm-hmm. Right? Middle Eastern languages, we're talking about Gilgamesh. They got it from the library of Ashurbanipal, right? Which is mostly a bunch of laundry lists. Anyway, the master work that they came up with was this Gilgamesh, and I just want to read to you. What I'm going to do, audience, this magic trick that I'm going to do, is I'm going to flash before your eyes 2 things. The first thing is Gilgamesh, and the second thing is Aristotle. Oh, God, this guy's he's going to totally bash us. Yes, Timmy. That is the purpose.
Steve, you want to hit the lights for us? You want to
I think I can do it.
Okay.
This day on which Enkidu dreamed came to an end. Yeah, and he lay stricken with sickness. One whole day he lay on his bed, and his suffering increased. He said, Gilgamesh, the friend on whose account he had left the wilderness, once I ran for you, but he's having some kind of delusional fevers here. So for the water of life, he's going for the water of life, and I now have nothing. A second day he lay on his bed, and Gilgamesh watched over him, but the sickness increased. A third day he lay on the bed. He called out to Gilgamesh, rousing him up. Now he was weak in the eyes, is blind with weeping, and 10 days he lay there suffering. Crazy, oh my God, does this ever stop? And Gilgamesh wept over ink. Oh God, he finally died. I'm so happy. Right? Right? Okay, now think about the language that it takes to express that, just linguistically. Right? Do you hear the repetition? Do you hear it's very simple verbs, very simple actions? It's very, repeated. That's what languages that don't have many words do that. They use repetition as a crutch.
Right.
Think of it as like a kid developing his speech. Developing his ability at speaking. Okay, now let's fast forward to Greek and let's compare it. This is Aristotle. Harmony is celestial, since its nature is divine, noble, and wonderfully wrought. Being in its operation naturally quadripartite, it has two means, arithmetic and harmonic, and its parts and magnitudes and excesses are manifested in conformity with number and equality of measure. For melodies are given their form in the range of 2 tetrachords.
What the does that mean?
Oh, do you feel as dumb as I do?
Yeah.
It turns into huh. After a while, it turns into huh. Okay, that's Aristotle, right? If you look at what he does with the language, it's miraculous. It's like watching a gymnast with a routine.
Right.
They're just able to reach out into the ether and grab something and pull it in. Oh God! Oh, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was tohu wabohu. And you're going to say, what? Tohu wabohu is the Hebrew. Right? It's not the original. The Greek is aoratos and akataskewastos. Those are two very different terms. Very, very different. And the Hebrew can only translate them into empty and empty because Hebrew only had a 7,000 word vocabulary, dude. Right? So as you're looking at languages, as you're looking at people who are analyzing those languages, realize what you're dealing with. Languages are not all the same. They're not. And I'm sorry, but Mother Greek is just sexy, naughty. You know what I mean? There's poetry, so naughty poetry.
So you're the only person on this earth, on this planet, that says that the Septuagint was an original Greek.
Am I the only one?
Is there anyone else?
Yeah, there is.
There is?
Yes. Yeah.
Who?
He's dead. Does that count?
Kind of, I guess.
Okay.
Maybe you get like a half a point for that. Who is he?
He's
John Scarborough.
No. He's a dead longer than that. He was a scholar of Greek, a grammarian, like they used to grow. Right. These are the guys who started everything. Because the language, you can't go where the language has to lead you there. Yeah, and he said, hey, Origen, who's a Christian, right? His name was Africanus.
Oh, Africanus, yeah.
Yeah.
He's the only other one. He's been dead a long time.
He said that a portion right, of the Septuagint at least, there's no way it's a Hebrew.
Do you know what portion?
It was several books. Yeah, Daniel. He uses examples from Daniel and from Genesis. Now,
so we had Gad Barnea on here, and
Yeah.
he was trying to explain to me, Steve, he said it was like Jewish Greek.
Yeah, I wonder if it was that Keon Greek, but he definitely
Koine.
said it was.
Koine.
Yeah, I wonder. He doesn't say that. He just says it was Jewish Greek.
Okay.
that doesn't exist.
Jewish Greek
He
doesn't...
should know that. It doesn't exist. There's no Jewish Greek. What is Jewish Greek? What do? Do you take all the Jewish...
Can we play the clip,
Do you
Steve?
take Jewish authors and throw them? They have a whole separate Greek. Give them equality.
We're gonna
for
love this. Let's bring him into the museum.
frick's sake.
Let's bring him into the arena here. Oh, virtually into the arena. What? Oh God! You got the full podcast. Are you gonna find it? You know where it is? You know what spot?
What?
Where does he date where does
it's
he
not the full
date
podcast.
Judaism to? He dates it really late. I don't know, like 2nd century BC.
I'm not sure, but he did say that the Septuagint was Hellenistic, and he said that he believes it was written in the same time frame as... He said that translation happened within... I might be f***ing this up, but I want to say within 30 years, 20 or 30 years, he said. So he thinks it was, around the same time, or, it was still Hellenistic. I don't know. I don't know what the f*** he was saying. We're going to have to listen to him. If you can find it, Steve.
I have this clip right here where he's
Oh,
talking
you
about
have the clip?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
okay.
this is.
Let's play it.
That's what this
Let's
be.
play it.
Yes. Okay. Here we go.
Now, another really important point that a lot of scholars miss is that the Septuagint is not Greek as such. It's not Greek. It's Judeo-Greek.
For people who are new to this stuff, can you explain what the Septuagint was?
So the Septuagint is this translation of especially of the Torah, of the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, into something that is Greek related.
Okay.
And the reason I'm saying Greek related because it's not actual Greek. It's Hebrew Greek. It's Jewish Greek. It's Judeo Greek. It's kind of like
Oh
Yiddish.
my God!
That's
No.
crazy. I've never heard of that before.
Oh my God! Because it doesn't exist.
So I come from classical studies, and so I studied classical Greek for a long time.
Oh,
And so
really?
for me,
Oh,
coming
bring
into
him.
and reading the Septuagint or the New Testament, which is an extension of the Septuagint in terms of its language,
No, it's not. Not
it's-
at all.
It
Totally
was
wrong.
It was almost shocking. It was almost uncomfortable.
No, he's making it up, dude.
Yeah,
He's
for
acting.
anyone coming from classical Greek or
Right.
from Greek
No.
Greek
No.
to read the
Greek
Septuagint
Greek.
because it's not. In some cases, it even
Let's
it
do-
seems to be wrong.
let's do
It's
Homer,
very badly
baby.
written.
Right.
Some of the terms that it's using don't make sense in Greek, but
Oh,
when you
really?
know the Hebrew term
Oh,
behind
yeah?
it,
Give me a
it's an
really?
exact translation into
Give me,
Greek of
give me an example,
Interesting.
dude.
so it's Hebrew. It's really very much. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this know about Yiddish. So Yiddish is Jewish
God.
German, right?
Dude.
That's
Jewish German is
What
Yiddish.
is that
It's a
from?
German
When's
language
Hold on. Let's finish
adopted
it.
by
I
the
didn't even know that.
Yeah. So okay. So Yiddish is Jewish German.
Okay.
And it's
He's
German. It's
behind
based
you.
on German
He's
language, but it
behind
has a lot of words in Hebrew.
got his
Also,
fingers
kind of sprinkled in, and that's the same thing with the Greek of the Septuagint. It's not
Not at all.
So
Not at all.
For Ptolemy or anyone to commission a work that would be written in a Jewish Greek, not in Greek, makes little sense.
Yeah, why would you create some new Jewish Greek? Why wouldn't you just make
Right.
it into real Greek?
Right, so that was probably the Greek that was spoken by the Jews of Alexandria.
Probably.
So it was written for them. It was not, so that's the language,
me a
that's
source,
the Greek
baby.
that they had for their own
All right, that's good,
identity
Steve.
in Alexandria.
Give me a source.
What is he saying? What is? What,
It's bullshit. That was
Can you
bullshit.
for a second try to elucidate or clarify his position and what he's saying for people that are listening to this and they're confused as right now?
His position is
Can you
flim-flam.
clarify his position?
Yeah, it's flim-flam. There is no Jewish Greek. Just like there's no Italian Greek. There's no Turkish
But why
Greek.
is he saying that the Septuagint is Jewish Greek? What how is it different?
I don't know, because he's trying to pull the authority. Right? He's trying to say you really can't read this text because it's not Greek, it's something else. Oh no, it's beautiful.
But it
beautiful.
is Greek.
It's beautiful Hellenistic Greek, and I would put it at the level, compared to people like Callimachus. It's hard because he's so elevated, right? The prophets that are there, the prophetic writings that are there. Remember, prophetes is a Greek term, right? The prophets that are there, they're reaching I'd say a mid-level 5 or 6. I give it a 5 or 6. So it's not up to the standard of the museum.
It's not up to the standard. So we were talking before we started about the Koine Greek. Koine Greek is like McDonald's hamburger Greek, and then you have Aristotle, which is like a Wagyu fillet or like a tomahawk ribeye, like a prime rib.
I would put Aristotle just a little. I wouldn't put him at the top. No.
So where on that range, on that scale, is the Septuagint Greek?
About a 5. It's somewhere in
halfway.
Yeah. It's
okay.
It's very stylistically. It's I'd put it a good 5.5 or 6. You know, she's not going to the Olympics or anything, right? But there is considerable drift from Alexandria lexically. The meanings of the words are like penetrating, getting out there, right? That's why we're talking about Uranus and Gaia. So you can see that influence from Alexandria. And that gentleman just said that there's a Greek and there's some other kind of Greek.
Jewish Greek.
It does not exist. It does not exist. If you want the proof of that,
you don't learn about Jewish Greek in classical programs?
It sounds so funny. No, why would you get why would you get Jewish people writing things then in Greek if they had this other language that this whole book was made up of? It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
I have a question.
Classical Greek. Yes, Steve.
Okay, so we can kind of apply that to today, right? So a great analogy would be like English. English is English, right? But then you have American English and UK English, right? We don't really differentiate that, but there is a difference, especially in the written words, like color, COLOUR versus America's COLOR.
Yeah.
They put a lot of OUs in there. For instance, aluminum is our word, but aluminium.
Yeah.
So
it's not quite. Wait, you're halfway there with that because that's dialectical differences, right?
Do you feel tired all the time, struggle with brain fog, or get aches and pains more than usual? These are signs of something deeper than aging, and it's called oxidative stress. It happens when your body is overwhelmed by unstable molecules called free radicals that can damage your cells. Normally, antioxidants keep these molecules in check, but things like pollution, poor diet, stress, and lack of sleep can cause free radicals to pile up, making it harder for your body to fight back. That is why I take Clean Being by Verso. It's packed with ingredients shown to cross the blood-brain barrier and lift brain fog, reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, relieving joint and muscle pains and also improving skin and hair. After taking Clean Being for years now, I can confidently say I feel sharper and far less drained at the end of the day. I experience way less inflammation, I sleep better, my skin is clearer, and I know it sounds crazy, but it's actually improved my vision. Plus, Verso publishes third-party testing from each batch they produce, so you're guaranteed to get exactly what you're paying for. Click the link in the description or head on over to ver.so/Danny to get 15% off your first order. Again, that's ver.so/Danny for 15% off your first order. It's linked below. Now back to the show.
That's one level of how language can change or evolve, right? Is through dialect. I'm talking at a deeper level with the lexical capacity of the language. What is the language able to describe? And the difference between Koine Greek and some kind of gorgeous Attic steak like Aeschylus is a drop in its lexical complexity, right? It's a dumbing down. Koine is a dumbing down process, and Koine can happen across dialects. Think of it that way. It's like a virus, dude. Once you've been infected with Koine, you're in trouble. And the Greeks try to revive their own standards back up to 5th century Athens, because that's when Greek is at its most elegant.
5th century.
Yeah, when all that democracy stuff's going on and all the tragedy and comedy and all that kind of stuff, all the civilization is happening. It's when they're developing that. This all started because I said I wouldn't put Aristotle at the top, right? Because there's Aeschylus. I'd put him at the top, and he's using this old Dorian chorus. And it's like, God, it's like, it's a beating heart of civilization. And once you penetrate that monist film that obstructs your vision and you reach that reality that we actually had in the history, that's why I tell people, you don't know history. You don't get it. You can ask a Christian today, and I intend to do this to anybody, Denny, that comes to us, to tell me what the Christ is. I already know what they're going to say, and I already know how to bat it down. And I suppose I could get a couple of New Testament scholars in here, and I could stand on this table and provide you the seed and the blood that you need by bombarding them with text after text after text of Christing and turning people into sex fiends. Oh, God. Satyrs with ribbons in their medical treatments. Do you understand?
So Koine Greek, the Septuagint was not Koine Greek.
No.
It was much more better. It was much better than that.
It's in an intermediate period when stuff begins to degenerate, right? Right, but no, it's very much got the Hellenist. It's still got a little bit of a twinge of the Hellenistic intellectual stuff that was coming out of the museum in Alexandria, the library, and all those great artists. Essentially, Danny, that's another point from the paper. Look, people, the problem is you're not ruled by musicians, right? You people aren't ruled by musicians, and that's the problem. And people don't recognize either the society.
I don't drink from Ganymede's rectum. That's why I'm not in charge.
No, but the musicians were.
Yes.
Right? And they can drink from Ganymede's rectum. And you, motherfucker, is the word in Greek. Metrokoites. The society that's coming up with things like democracy and the scientific method, that society that's getting so advanced, they're founded by rock and roll people, right? They're founded on the backs of lyre players, men and women. And for those of you who don't know that, check it out. You're going to find a whole lot of guitar playing people. And they, this is the first time we see Metrokoites is with this group. And that is mother f***er. That's how it's translated. I've seen a translation with that. And why? Who would give us such a thing? It's iambic poets who give us such a thing. What is iambic poetry? It is a poetry that's satanic vein that is sent to wake you up. It's the gadfly. You want to know what it means to be Christed? It means to be inspired. To be inspired by a drug. A drug with a gospel. A gospel that leads us to salvation. And that's all in the text. You've got it all in text. I don't know why the monists try to cover it up, but they do. They come in. And just like you said, something happened in antiquity. It's that film of the Christianity.
That's what you're doing. You're inspiring a new generation of time travelers to go back and excavate the truth of antiquity.
Correct.
And what was going on, the mysteries, the drugs, the sex, the pharmacon, everything.
Everything.
They were roaming around. There were no cultural sanctions on these people.
No.
Until
until the Christians come along and
along.
make laws, right, in order to manipulate and to control and seize estates. Libanius tells us this. He says, those goddamn Christians, they've broken onto the estate and they're claiming we're violating laws by burning this incense. We've got to get rid of it because fumigation is a big deal. That's how you get a group of people high.
Mm-hmm.
We have
they would walk through the town and burn weed, marijuana.
Medea did. Yeah, that was one of the things she used. Yeah, and just fumigate. You just fill the air, right? And what does that do? It cleans people, they would say. You clean this person up. They're too goddamn emotional. You can purge your population that way. I'm sure the CIA should already be a step ahead of us on this, right? But
of course they are.
Using drugs to control a population is a very ancient practice. Only the best culture does it.
When you say they use the fumigation to purge the population, what do you mean by that specifically? How do you purge them? How does that purge them?
You purge them of that naughtiness.
You purge them of the naughtiness?
Yeah.
Or you mean you're purging them psychologically is what you're saying?
Yeah. Imagine if I took you and Steve and 12 of your best friends up into the mountains and I drugged you all. Mm-hmm. And I gave you drugs that induced a 24/7 erection that can last for 7 days before you'll keel over dead. Which, by the way, that's when you get your tattoos that we were talking about, motherfucker. That's when you get them. Do you understand? You know the guys in the cult, if he can pull it out and it's full attention, it reads something, right? A message that disappears. Do you understand? Yeah. It's not a joke. It's not a joke at all. That's where the language is taking us. And it's gorgeous, man. The real history is actually more beautiful than the fairy tale. Let me give you an example. You think of religious writings. You think, oh, God, they're so wonderful. Let me give you a religious writing, a monist one that will crack open your head. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. This is from the Talmud. The Talmud says...
Oh, God. Why were the Jews not Christians?
Why were the Jews not Christians?
Does that make sense? Why weren't the Jews Christians? If Christianity revolves around this figure who died on the cross who was Jewish.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Because the gangsters, he ran afoul of the gangsters. He wasn't the main hotshot. He's the guy kicking over the tables in the temple where they're doing this to the children. Mary with her fingers in the temple, her purple fingers in the temple, feeding from the angels. Everybody knows that. Right? What did you think? In antiquity, they thought that there were angels people? You thought that they're flying? What do you oh my God, your modern culture. Why the hell are we so stupid? Why do we buy the fairy tale so quickly? Here's the one about Jesus as a...
So Jesus was... He was an exotic figure who was Hellenistic, but based on Dionysus. Is that right? His story is based on the story of Dionysus?
No, you've been fingered by an academic.
That was Carl Ruck who said that.
No!
It was. I listened to it this morning.
It doesn't matter. You've still been fingered. What do we have to... I cannot go to any interpretation. I have to stick with those texts. What do those texts say? We know it's the dude who's Christing.
So Jesus had nothing to do with Dionysus. There's no connection there.
No, Jesus had a lot to do with Dionysus because he is performing a mystery. He is involved in baptism. Who the hell gets involved in baptism in antiquity? Right? It's religious extremists. who are going through mysteries. But when I say extremists, you can go through the big one in Athens, like everybody who's anybody does, right? And you can be born again, right? So, but it is what we would call, what most of us would call a religious extreme of what's going on in the religion. People don't realize baptism is a drug term. Baptism is a drug term. Oh, God. I need to bombard scholars with all of the
And
medical...
Carl and Ruck, who you hold in high regard.
Admire for the world. The man is such a seasoned classicist.
Who was one of the first classical scholars to talk about the use of drugs.
Yes, sir.
In his book about Eleusis.
He held the breach when nobody else would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he doesn't believe that Jesus was a historical figure.
Yes, that's correct.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a cop-out. Because he knows something. Dr. Carl Ruck knows something.
He's a mythicist by definition.
What the hell is that? He's a human being. He's a human being.
But a mythicist are people that don't believe Christ ever existed.
Gifted. No, he's not a mythicist. Bullshit. He's a superhero. And when he's out in public, he draws people to him and his goodness. And his goodness. Even dogs love to hump him. Ask him. He won't admit to it. This is why he won't come on Lady Babylon, because I'll force him. Right? He knows. It's okay. Copulating turtles, too. He and I watched 2 turtles. Copulate in Thrace. And then we went and drank some Retsina.
Have you really seen Carl Ruck naked?
This is very true. Very true. It was an accident. No, it was. I was prepping. I don't care because it's a positive story. I don't care. I'm going to tell you the truth from just my experience. We were staying at the same place for a conference, and I was sitting there and going over my notes, and he had gotten a shower just then, and he walked by, and his towel accidentally, it was a total accident, because I could tell by the way he reacted. But he had to bend over. And suddenly in my mind, I saw that bull-horned altar. And I was like, oh my God, I get it. It's like a centaur. Right? Right? It's those big ones. It was like glory. It was like, I was like, okay, Priapus is right there.
He's got a pet iguana living in his shorts.
No, I wouldn't say that. It's just, he's ample, and he's a great, great ample man, just full of talent and incredible kindness and tenderness. Are you getting calls saying, tell him to stop? No.
I'll turn it upside down.
It's the unbenefit of not being live. Oh my God, I think I confused the double negatives. He stood in the breach when people used to tell Carl Ruck, oh, you're talking about drugs and you must have a, drug agenda. And, it was scary, man. Dude could lose his job for that kind of thing. And he held the line because he loves the text, and that's where he's truly strong.
And I think he believes that the reason that he got smeared the way he did by his university was because when he was coming out with this stuff was the same time as the psychedelic renaissance, right?
Yeah. And
the academics didn't want to prop up any of this hippie bullshit. They thought that we don't want our ancestors and the ancient Greeks to be these hippies that we see today protesting the Vietnam War. Like, they weren't the same. They wouldn't have done such a thing.
Yeah. It's the same resistance. And he wasn't interested in what their ideas were. He was interested in what those texts said. And he knew it. He had read all that stuff. He'd seen the ecstatic stuff. He coined the word entheogen.
Entheogen, yeah.
Right, that's from Greek, baby. He knows what he's doing. Exactly. So I think it's a little bit of an excuse knowing that Jesus is around all this drug activity.
So
and
you
the
think it's a cop
boys-
out that he says Jesus was not a real person?
No.
It's a story.
Yeah.
He thinks it was a story.
Yeah. No, I think I don't think he even thinks it's a story. I wouldn't dare to think what's in that genius mind of his. But I know this. He's got to stay with the text. And it doesn't matter whether Jesus was real or not. If the texts are saying that Jesus was arrested in a public park with a naked kid and screaming, "I am not a child trafficker," right? I am not a child. Linguistically, he can go there. And I think he should. And he doesn't have to say whether. If he wants to believe Jesus is fake or real is irrelevant, right? He knows that. He's a philologist. He knows that. So I challenge you, my great master and Lord, Carl Ruck, please say something about Jesus and the naked boy and the drugs that they're using. Please say something about a Christ. Tell us, you know Euripides. You know it's a sex drug.
Another thing people like to say is that he wasn't a boy, he was a young man.
Yeah, a young man.
But I don't see the big deal. I don't see the big difference there.
The difference is the diminutive. It's not a neanias. A young man is a neanias.
Okay.
A neaniskos, that iskos suffix, is a diminutive. It means
Meaning he's owned.
You take the thing and you make it smaller. You make it younger. My little paidiska.
Little man.
My little paidiska is your little girl.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. What where should we take the time machine next?
Yeah.
Also, Steve, do you want to turn the lights on, or is this good enough lighting for?
I mean,
This is
let's stick with what we got.
Okay. Let's do it then. I'm going to tell you. What am I going to tell you? I'm looking at the word. I'm looking at the word for have. To somebody sexually. And who's it referring to? It's referring to Jesus and the little bits of questions of
Mary on the mountain.
Yeah. And it says that he wants her to receive his seed to be eaten.
Mm-hmm.
To be eaten. And the beautiful thing about it is, because she's hesitant, he says, look, you just don't get things that are epi-urania, right? They're epuranian. And if you don't know what that is, that's a Greek word.
For?
Right? For that which is translated now as heavenly, but it is things that are based in urania. Let me tell you who Urania is. She is the one that you see when you look up. She is the queen of the Scythian band that uses the arrow poison to give them the inspiration to play the lyres. She's the huntress who is the Sotera. She is the earliest savior. And her mystery is the mystery that ultimately forms Christianity. And that mystery is what Jesus is reflecting here and saying, hey, you got to eat it or you're not going to have salvation, lady. And he's like, you don't believe me because you can't think on things that are epi-urania. Lady, who's Urania? She's Aphrodite, you sexy beast. What do you think Mary Magdalene was for? You need a vagina because there are purple flowers in the world, people. There are purple flowers. Oh, by the way, the apostles didn't want to do it.
They didn't want to eat his...
No.
Why?
And they said, it's his iskra. They acknowledged openly he wants us to eat directly his seed, his semen.
Why? And...
I don't know. If you were a kid, would you want to eat?
No. But what was there any? He obviously wasn't an antidote because he wasn't a eunuch, right?
It was gonna save you. It was gonna give you
what was the
ionic
pharmacological
vision.
How though?
Whatever's in his semen, baby.
What do you think was in his?
I don't know. I don't want to find out.
Neither do I.
Yeah, no. Fuck that, man. Bring these guys to justice, you know?
How could he have any sort of chemicals in his semen that would get you high?
Because they're using the body to process drugs.
Yeah, but he wasn't a boy though. You said the boys were doing that. They had to be young so that they could create the antibodies to be the Antichrist.
When he's with Mary, he wants her to eat his, and he uses very specific terms like fellatio.
Oh.
It's through the fellatio
He just
that
wanted
he's
to blow
getting. Yeah. You could be negative. You know?
I mean, just say
yeah.
you want to blow. You don't have to pretend like your life is the Da Vinci Code. Just ask her for a blowy.
I think that's why the apostles were like, no. I think that's why they were passing. You got to think,
He's
though.
a cult leader.
He said that's why you don't understand heavenly things.
He's
I'm sorry.
a cult leader. He's trying to. The guy just wants sex and drugs, and he's trying to paint this mythical, this cosmic, godlike connection that he thinks he has to make people follow him, so he can get more sex and drugs.
He got baptized, baby. He got baptized by John. He was with the devil for 40 days, brother. Do you know what I mean?
No.
You don't know because we haven't been initiated.
I can't. I have a hard time sometimes parsing through the poetry.
Yeah.
And the sword and what you're actually trying to say.
Yeah, he went.
He was
into
with the devil?
Eremon. Yeah, he was baptized and he went into the void.
Oh yeah, so he did drugs.
Right.
He performed a ritual, a mystery.
When he did the baptism, he saw Uranus open. Right? What do you see when you see Uranus open?
He met the devil.
You're epi-Urania.
So he got high.
Epi-Uranian.
He got high and he met the devil.
Yeah, it says that.
What still happens today?
Yeah.
You hear people talking about all the time. I got too high. I saw the fucking devil.
Do you get blowjobs when you get high and meet the devil?
I wish.
You're
Once or twice.
You're probably a cult leader if you. Wait, seriously, Danny? Shame on you.
Not when I'm in the depths of hell.
Right.
But maybe when I'm coming out of hell, or when I'm descending down into hell. I've participated in the rituals, but
no, you gotta suck those teats, man, or it's gonna kill you. That's why he's walking around telling you know, Jesus encouraged people to use drugs. And I say that and people are like, no, absolutely not. He encouraged people to use drugs. Where did he encourage them? He said, look, you're going to hold up snakes. You're going to drink this thanasimon, this death inducer, which is a cult compound. Nero's got the friggin' formula for it. Do you understand? This is a big deal in antiquity.
yes.
And he's involved in this stuff. Jesus Christ is involved in this stuff. He's even got the poison garments, right? He does what those who were Christed do. He casts out demons.
So you also said on the first podcast, you mentioned that when Jesus was caught in the park, he was high as fuck.
Yes.
He was tripping balls.
Correct.
Cops captured him.
Yep.
And he was crucified 8 hours later.
Yeah.
He was captured at 4,
I don't
crucified
know if it
at
was a full 8. I don't know if it was full 8 hours, but by like 3 o'clock, he's dead.
3 o'clock. He
So
died. And
I
he
think
was
it's noon. He starts getting
he
crucified.
died early,
Yeah.
right?
He died prematurely.
And
right?
they offered, and he screamed. He was screaming out. Some people say he was singing.
Yeah.
And somebody offered him, his followers were trying to give him a sponge or something full of vinegar.
Correct.
And you say that Nonus wrote about that vinegar being an antidote to the horned African viper.
He says it's an antidoton, so he uses the Greek word antidote for the deep sass, which is identified as the North African horned viper.
Okay, let's put a pin right there.
Because of its symptom that it causes, that is extreme thirst.
Right.
When he's on the cross, he's screaming, I am thirsty. And there is a document. The reason that Nonus is telling us this is the Geoponica also shows that the word that you and I are translating vinegar is the word for the antidote, commonly for the specific snake venom that is used in their religious rites. Jesus is pushing those very same drugs in the Gospel of Mark.
When was Nonus? Who was Nonus?
Yeah, fifth Anno Domini, AD, and he is an author of a work called the Paraphrase of John, and he's an expert grammarian. We don't have these anymore, but they're called grammatikoi, and he was able to reproduce this ancient form of Homeric dactylic hexameter. He's able to bring it down because it's the cult language. He brought it down to the fifth into the sixth, and
he quite literally wrote about that vinegar being the specific word for the antidote for the viper venom.
He actually wrote. You can look it up. It's in a work called The Paraphrase of the Gospel of John.
The Paraphrase of the Gospel.
Where he goes through the whole Gospel of John and he explains to you what's going on. He writes it in his own beautiful, lofty Greek. It's not Attic Greek. It's Homeric. And the fact that he could master their vocabulary on top of his own is quite dramatic.
In the 5th century.
Yeah, he's doing this late. But he says it's an antidote, which the Geoponica, which is a Byzantine farming manual, it actually has the recipe for it. And it says the vinegar and then it treats the dipsass and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not making that up. That's in there. And
so does anybody else who's read that? I imagine Ruck has read that, right? He's read Nonus.
Why would he have read the Geoponica?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that not a common thing for classicists to read?
No. Totally uncommon.
Where did you find it?
Dr. John Scarborough put me onto it.
Okay.
He said, hey, get this Byzantine text. I was like, why's that? He's like, it's full of drugs. I was like, good. So, yeah. And it has the whole explanation of what the vinegar is and what it does. So when Jesus is up there going, oh, I'm so thirsty, right?
But so,
read them.
He was translating John's gospel. And the way John wrote was not complex. It was very primitive, right?
No.
And John wrote it in what language?
Greek.
In Greek. But
it's Greek.
Was Nonus's Greek better than John's?
Nonus's Greek was a
more detailed?
Think of it as if it's two guitarists, it's somebody who's a master of the guitar. Compared to somebody who is proficient and able to perform in bars, but is never going to take a stage of a group and infatuate 100,000 people because of their level of artistic, gain. That's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with somebody who's, and you get that. There's all sorts of different sorts. Some of them, look, I'm sorry, you read the Aristotle. It makes you feel stupid, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you're not as smart as Aristotle. I'm not. I don't think anybody else around us is, to be quite honest. So you see that reflected in the language gives them that sword, that sharp sword to be able to use, to be able to bring you some kind of ecstasy, right? Why are we so far behind? Why are we just hearing about emperors on drugs? Why are we just hearing about the sex industry? The kink in antiquity. You know what I can do? This is what the word is. Give me a eunuch. What do you do with eunuchs? You don't even know. You
sell them. You trade them.
Yeah. What
you can get the antidote with them.
If you buy some. If you and I go out tonight with Steve and we're like, let's get 2 eunuchs. Okay? What are we going to do with those eunuchs?
You tell me.
No, what do you want to do? I don't know.
I don't want 2 eunuchs.
It was your idea. If you're going to do this and we commit, I don't want to be there. And you're like, oh, I don't know.
I'm not committing to 2 eunuchs. I'm not going to do that. I don't need the eunuchs. I don't need an antidote.
But let's just say it's the world. Just a thought experiment.
Okay. Let's do a thought experiment. Okay.
Yeah, 2 eunuchs.
I hope somebody clips this out of context.
We're going to bring these 2 eunuchs back here. Right? And I have some things I want to do with them. Right? What would you like to? Just as we're producers. We're going to bring this thing forward. Right? Now you know why performing the mysteries was highly illegal. Right? It's only the priesthood that's allowed to do this. Right? That's why they protect it. You couldn't
do it recreationally. You couldn't perform a mystery at your house.
Because it turns into a child ring. You remember, you're protecting oracles, baby. You have to have a priesthood that puts up a legal shield.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So tell me why we need the eunuchs.
Oh, okay. Well, what can you do with the eunuch?
You can extract their bodily fluids.
Some of them you can. Some of them, but before, you don't just jump in to extracting body fluids. My God, man. Romance this thing.
Sorry.
We can take off their testicles. The first thing that we do, you grab that.
They're already eunuchs.
8. Well, that's part of the fun.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay, get beyond the castration. Fine. So we castrate our eunuchs, and then their body becomes a vessel of nectar. And there are ways you can give people drugs and have them produce certain substances that can then be harvested from the person. Right? Mm-hmm. Drugs straight out, right? And the eunuch, you can collect from that eunuch his milk. Right? I don't say it looks like milk. They don't. They describe it, and it's serous. Just like that girl with the grape-sized breasts that Galen talks about, and the serous exudate that comes out of her breasts that they're using. Right? That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. They're talking about transforming. Can you capacitate? Look, I had this down here. Right after Jesus' I was going to talk about, can you capacitate somebody with drugs? You've got to remember the societies that we're talking about will also base what they're doing on the idea that you can use drugs to take yourself to a better state. Your mind, your soul, everything. All right? So the drug is very much the mysterion, is very much the mystery, so much so that Galen says, hey, you realize so-and-so has his mysterion, and it's called blank. Right? So the word mystery itself becomes a drug term. So I think that's the only thing I can add to Dr. Ruck standing in the breach.
Right.
With his giant tools of doom in his fingers and his linguistic, his brain, and his heart. He's a good man. Yeah.
What about Nero's death inducers?
Yeah. They're paired with the theriac.
When was Nero?
First century, middle of the first century.
Middle of the first, and he, what was his position? Who was he?
He was emperor, and he was a little bit, he did some strange things. He got the power, and he was like, dude, I am totally taking it out on everybody. Everybody was going to pay. You know what I mean? And he married a little boy, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. I'm sure you looked that up. But his arch physician had a theriac combo that has the drug that is the death inducer, the thanasimon, paired with the galene that's antidote. And he's got the whole recipe. Is
it similar to the theriac, to Galen's theriac?
Yeah, it is Galen. It's not Galen's theriac. It's one of the theriacs that Galen talks about, because there's a whole bunch of them. It's not the one that he's got Marcus Aurelius on.
Right.
Right. That one's making, people are going to research this now. I heard this is making a little bit of headway. Right. Because people just read the document that talks about Marcus Aurelius and the theriac that he was taking, the drug combo that he was taking. right? And it's written there in Galen, and Galen's talking about he's doing a lot better on it. So people are going to read
He's looking
that.
better.
Yes. Regenerative. Love it.
Because Marcus Aurelius was on the dope.
He was a hophead. Yeah, hophead. Doing his opium, and people.
Now the Theriac had like a bunch of different viper venoms, viper flesh,
Right.
had opium,
Right.
all kinds of animal and plant products
Right, and
mixed
terrible
into
stuff.
it. And it
Yeah,
was supposed to be
terrible.
like a panacea, right?
Yes. But most importantly, people think, the Theriac is a drug that you take that makes you invincible, gives you that ultimate health, gives you that fountain of life.
Mm-hmm.
No. It's not. The Theriac is one half of one circle, and the other half of the circle is the death bringer.
Yes.
And
right.
together they work to open up that portal to get you to the other side and back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the cult finds the knowledge, know yourself. They got this stuff written all over the place, right? Yeah. Oh,
So what was so special about Nero's death inducers?
From Galen's perspective, what was special is the fact that the formula is written in this, it's a dactylic hexameter again. So this thing is coming from a genuine source, right? You talk about who are the sources that preceded these people. We're talking about people like Nicander, who's that priest. People need to be introduced to the ancient priest. They don't know him or her, right? And he or she, what are they known for above all else? They're guitar players, baby. They're guitar players. They're sexy, sexy guitar players. And they are going to be able to retune you. They're going to do it, and they have rights to do it. Mm-hmm. Do you understand? They're going to make something of you. And when you come back from this experience, you will know yourself. So this is healing. This is healing, right? And the monist virus swarmed in and shut it down. That's the type of purging that you need. You need your people to purge, or else you get tyranny.
Yes. Yeah. Do you think there's something about the human brain that was something through evolution that wired the human brain to be dependent on a higher power? Something deep inside our brain, something ancient that has built this dependency on a higher power.
I think definitely. The proof is in the design. The proof is in the design. If you can go into the human body, this shocked me. As you can tell, this was part of my awakening when I was a graduate student at Madison, and I was taking my microbiology courses, and I realized, oh my God, there are receptors for cannabis in your brain. It makes no sense. It's completely contrary. Unless you should be having cannabis, it makes no sense to have a receptor there for it. It makes no sense. And I realized in studying that inner part of the system that carries that fluid, that water of life that I talked about before, and sitting right there above that hypothalamus, just dreaming those chemicals, just dropping those chemicals in there. I realized there's something that's controlling. There's something in the culture that controls. And it's what Julian, I think, the apostate, said. That Christianity has a tendency, monism has a tendency to put control. And those drugs are beyond the control. The true Bacchic freedom is beyond.
Well, we are
control.
drugs. Human beings, animals, we're drugs. We're walking bags of chemicals that are constantly fluctuating in their balance. We're never in a one particular state. Our state is always going up and down like waves, like depending on what our cortisol level is, our hormonal levels. Like it's, and every plant and animal and human being is a producer of DMT. We all have, everything has DMT in it. Everything. Yeah. Our brains, our lungs. First of all, how do you make something illegal that is in everything?
Right. Yeah, right. It seems like it should be ethically wrong. Mm-hmm. It's like making H2O illegal. You can't do that, dude.
Right.
We're all based on it.
So your higher power is that muse. Your higher power is the muse.
Definitely. Oh, I'm so glad. I don't know if I'm capable of receiving such an honor to say that. You know, the earliest temples, those Greeks with their gorgeous language, it was coming to a peak. The temples that they built were temples to the muse beforehand. It took me a while until I saw in a cellular biology course, until I saw her write the story of what was going on with the dance of everything. I was like, oh God. Right. And then I was like, hello. Right. Love it. You got to dance, baby. You got to dance. That's all there is to it. Well, why else are you living, Danny? Why are you here? Right. She's the one pushing you. You know what I mean? Well, I mean, seriously, feed me.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to ask you about was Caligula.
Yeah.
Who's Caligula?
Caligula was a guy who supposedly was pretty good. He's an emperor early first, and he comes in and he does pretty good to start with, but next thing you know, he's got senators up on the table and he's sticking his hand up to his elbow in their anus. Yeah. Why would you do that? They say it's because he had a fever. I think that's an excuse. It's like the dude got COVID, and next thing you know, he's fisting senators.
Yeah, what was going on with that? He was sick for a long time.
Yeah. Prolonged fever. Probably messed up his brain.
He didn't try the Theriac?
Apparently he didn't get enough of it or something, because he took a dive, and when he came back, he was in the mood for fisting. Some people might say he did it on purpose. You know, Tiberius has little boys who were eunuchs. We were talking about eunuchs and what you can do with them. Mm-hmm. They can swim. I would like to go swimming. I would like to design. I am Tiberius. I am the emperor. I have an island. It's called Capri. And on that island, it's goats. Get it? It's Goat Island. You know why? You can go to grottos on the island, and there's 9 to 13-year-old boys. There's 9 to 13-year-old boys there. And the same age girls, pre-pubescent, and they will do what it will take to heal you. Yeah, you may get killed in the process. You may get killed, or somebody may have to get thrown over the cliff. You know how they deal with people on the island? Yeah, what do you do when she gets pregnant? Because this is a big deal. He's got to staff this whole island. You're thinking Epstein. Epstein is backwards and tiny, right, compared to what Tiberius was doing. He supplies his island full of kids of all ages. It says that he has a penchant for the babies who have not yet stopped drinking from the breast. And the reason for this is because he's going to take that baby and he's going to put that baby on something. And he's going to take that baby when he's done and throw it over the cliff.
Tiberius.
Yeah. He has little kids, little eunuchs.
This is in what, the first?
Yeah, first. This is when Jesus is alive, baby. This is who's ruling when Jesus is alive. That's why the kidnapping is such an important connection. When Jesus says, I'm not a kids, he's trying to separate himself, right? He's caught red-handed, to be honest, because he's caught next to a naked kid, right, by a SWAT team. That's pretty much that pretty much sealed the deal, right? But you take your eunuch and you make your eunuch swim. This is the fun thing you can do. Look, just swim. I'm going to go swimming, and every time I go swimming, I want you to swim by me, right? Like you're surrounding me, and I want you to go in and I want you to take little nibbles of my genitalia. Okay, nothing to hurt me, just little nibbles. Right? A little nibble of the genitalia. You know what the Baptists are doing? The same thing, baby. You are getting people. I brought the word for you. You're getting people used to the idea of performing fellatio on you. That's why you need disciples, right? I need you to eat this seed. Do you understand? There's a reason that you have to do it. Now, Tiberius takes it to the nth degree, to where he's, he's staffing a whole island full of prepubescent boys and girls. And on this island, you can go find the grottos of the nymphs, if that's your thing. If that's your thing, you've got to be careful. But if that's your thing, that's your thing. And those nymphs will do what they need to do. So let's have a party with all of the senators. Let's get them all here, and let's put them in their place. And
Get
this is
blackmail on them.
tactic. It's a tactic. People think, oh my God, it's power, baby. If you can fist a senator, imagine Trump thinks he's powerful, right? Right? I don't see him fisting anybody. Okay. When
Yeah, you don't see it, but you never know. He could be doing it behind closed doors.
let me say this so that it makes it meets its mark.
Okay.
Right? When Nancy Pelosi, right, is watching Donald Trump fist her husband in front of the entire Senate, like it's a big dinner party, by the way. We can do this at Mar-a-Lago if you want.
Okay.
Right, we can do it. Right, if he hasn't thought of this, let's put the thought in his head right now. Right, just
Okay.
pure satanic.
I think he'll watch this.
Energy. You think so? Yeah. Right, what you have to do is you have to find Melania, get inside her. Right. Where do you go to get that? You got to get inside their head, and you have to penetrate that dream. This is how the Magi are working. Why? Because their eyes are open, Danny. When you start to interact with the outside, apparently you get some kind of knowledge. That knowledge can be cataloged over years of people's experience. That's what the priests are doing. And they're creating a pathway for you to be able to navigate. Right? So, I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe once you blast off with that DMT or whatever the hell it is,
Yeah.
combination of shit, and they give you the scorpion venom and got the stuff going on, and you die and you come back. Maybe it turns on some kind of observational power you've got.
It does something that rewires your brain. It gives you a different perspective on stuff.
Maybe that's where you're supposed to be. Maybe like that is human. Maybe that's human,
Yeah.
And the rest of us are zombies.
Well, it makes sense. Like when they talk about Eleusis being a portal to another world, but like if Eleusis was this place where people could go experience these drugs and have the experience of dying and being born again and going to this other dimension,
Yeah.
which is an earth-shattering experience. It sounds just like a DMT or a mushroom trip. And if you can put a walled garden around it and make it a secret where you're not allowed to talk about it and you have to pay to bring your goat or whatever and sacrifice to be able to come here.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
You could absolutely convince people that they are meeting the gods.
Hearing the voice of God.
Because that's exactly what it is. Unless you have some sort of scientific explanation, where you like we have today, where people try to explain. I mean, we still, even today, people don't know what's happening on DMT. There's theories of what, some people say that it's the brain. The brain is a filter that's filtering out what's really here in our reality. And the brain is filtering the things that we need to be able to perceive in order to survive. And when these drugs break that down and they show you what's really there. That's the theory that people think that that's what's going on. I mean, there's people that are trying to study doing extended state DMT trips to try to figure out what exactly is going on there, because we don't know. Is it inside of our brains? Is it just some sort of chemical thing that's happening inside of our heads that is giving us this experience? Or is it outside? We still don't know today. So thousands of years ago, it's totally plausible that they thought that they were going to hell or going to heaven and being initiated into something spiritual. And if you can have some sort of a structure around that, some sort of cult structure where there's a leader who decides, who is able to be initiated.
Yeah. Especially if there's sexuality in the mystery.
Yeah.
If somebody wants you to
especially if you're
their
doing
semen.
something, I mean, I don't know if that, even when that was happening, was that the sexual stuff? Was that frowned upon?
Completely contemporary.
It was a ubiquitous thing.
Jesus, yeah, the Ophites, yeah, eat my baby.
Right.
Right, it's basically a blow cult.
Yeah,
right? And they're right in line with Christianity. They're doing the same thing. It's why Jesus was frowned upon when they were like, hey, do you want this murderer? And they're like, no way, get that pedo. Right? And people don't see that. The history is way more. That's why I'm calling the bluff on any ism that anybody's got where they want to make jack. Right? Don't believe the stories. Go to the text. What do the texts say? Look at that and see what they say. This one says Jesus was giving his penis to Mary, God, to put in her holy mouth.
What was that? The study you sent me from the University of Tampa, where they found a mug, an ancient mug, and they thought that there was breast milk and drugs mixed together.
Ejaculate, female vaginal proteins. It said.
Can you find that, Steve? There's an article that just came out from University of Tampa about an Egyptian mug.
Best jar. It was visiting them, and they were looking at it, and they did some chemical analysis and found vaginal proteins. Oh God, give me some of that best jar.
Vaginal proteins?
Yeah. How do you do that, man?
There it is. Ancient Egyptian mug at the Tampa Museum of Art once held psychotropic drugs, human blood, and bodily fluids. Research reveals.
I told you. Look at Bess. Look at that. Oh, God. Those Egyptians with their dirtiness.
Keep going down. Bess. Who is Bess?
Oh, some Egyptian deity. I don't know.
Egyptian deity.
Something to do with sex. Yeah. Get an Egyptologist in here. God damn it.
Huh. That's cool.
Yeah.
And when was this published? This was published recently, I think.
Recently. Just like they did the hair. The hair
you just passed
from
it, Steve.
Menorca.
It's up,
Right?
up, way up, above the text.
With the drugs.
Below the photo, above the text.
Below the photo.
There you go. October 29th, 2023. About a year ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
And supposedly they did the chemical analysis on it. And, people are surprised. Oh, it's got vaginal stuff in it, body fluids. Love it, baby. Why do you think you drank out of her purpled flowers? That's what makes you a god. They sang about it. You can take a vagina. Oh, God. Let's do it. Let's just go ahead and do it. You can take a vagina and you can turn it into a reservoir of the water of life. And when you find your purpose, then the muse will sing. Yeah. Oh, my. Are you kidding me?
What does that mean?
Yeah. Oh, they put purple on their vagina. The burning purple is one of the cult drugs they're using. There's a whole trade behind it. There's a whole economy behind it and everything. And people are just now discovering and are rediscovering. Oh, the purple. Right? Good. They're using it. And they're right, baby. Those purple fingers. You know what happens when you get purpled? You hear voices. Who wants to hear voices? Yeah. It's God. And Mary hears her and hears him and it makes her pregnant. Oh my God, give her the old man with the rod. They actually gave her away. It's amazing. It's amazing. What do you do with the priestesses? You see how it can be turned into a market?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody went running. When they offered Mary, who's 12, here, you got to take her. She's pregnant with God's baby. Here she goes. They auctioned her off. Dudes are willing. They want her. It's not an auction. It's you put in your rod. Who's ever rod gets her, they take her away, right?
Like a raffle?
Yeah, it's a raffle, right? It's a raffle. But they're doing a lot of raffling. They do that in the temple. The prophets do it. You don't know this. You're going to see it in the Septuagint because you don't really read the Greek. All these pikers who come up here and say, this is kind of Greek and bullshit. You don't really read the Greek. I can tell by listening to you. Right? They're using the lots, what you and I call the sortes, in the temple. Whenever they want to figure out what God's opinion of something is, they go cast lots. Yeah, it's a way of reading God. Right? So when they give him, who should we give the virgin to? Who should we give her to? Because now she's 12 and pregnant with God's baby. Who do we give her to? They call her Mary Purple Fingers. Who do we give her to? We have a lot, and God ultimately tells us. We have prophets who do this in the Septuagint. They go into the temple, and it says in the text, I entered into a state of ecstasy, and I heard the voice of God saying X, Y, and Z. And God wanted me to do this. How do I know? Because I cast the lots, and that's what he said for me to do. Yeah. This is not Moses and Marlon Brando, or no, what's his name? Charlton Heston and all that.
Right.
This is the reality of the anthropology. This is what the texts show. Imagine, you and I are talking about eunuchs. We don't have any eunuchs to dig up, right, who can tell their stories. But we know how they were using them through these guys like Tiberius and through this guy, Jesus Christ, who's walking around telling you and your children, blessed are the eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven. Yeah. He's just not sophisticated enough to throw him over the cliff, right?
How many times have you read the Bible?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know because I use it all the time and I'm reading it very, very frequently.
Really?
Very, very frequently. Like, oh God, if I get through a week without reading at least 2 or 3 books of the Septuagint and New Testament, then something's wrong because I consult that literature frequently. Yeah. And I love to read it backwards. The best way to read the Apocalypse is to read it backwards.
Why is that?
Because it was designed that way.
It was designed backwards?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
It was built.
It was what?
It was reverse engineered. The climax, right, was punctured itself into another universe. Boom, gave you the apocalypse. Why are they doing these things? The first time I noticed this was when I was reading the PGM.
The magical Greek papyri.
The Greek magical papyri. And they have these words that will mirror, and all of a sudden you're reading backwards. You're reading forwards and backwards, right? The people who are involved in all of this high-tech drug stuff that are entering people, I mean, they've that knowledge to be able to castrate you, you also have to have that knowledge of which drugs do what to the body.
Yeah.
And how you can manipulate. What was...
Nazi drugs.
Oh, God. How you can manipulate somebody's, what you and I would say, their mind.
Manipulate their mind.
Yeah, that's what the craft of the Magi, and that's why they do the interrogations and all that kind of stuff. It's like a legal. They have a certain legal clout and tradition because they're able to. Think about the people who traveled. Pythagoras goes to Egypt and to Persia just to learn the drugs that they're using.
Right.
Right, and think about the clout that you have, the dictators or kings, tyrants, whatever you want to call them, have entire boards of magi that they consult. And one of the favorite things that you and I can all consult is the eunuch and the chief eunuch and his eunuchs, like Daniel, because these are the prophets. They're able to see, right? They've been given the gift of vision. This is nothing new. It's all over the Mediterranean, bro. Right? It's all there. And that gift is given through that serpent combo that's wound around that staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is the theriac and the death inducer. So if you'd been there, you'd understand. You wouldn't have to sit here, breathe it. Oh my God! Right?
Were there any stimulants? Did they have cocaine and heroin back then?
Yeah.
Or did they only have psychedelics?
No, the cocaine is not there, right? That's a new.
They didn't
world.
have coca?
They had stimulants, but they didn't have coca, right? That's a new world drug.
Okay.
But very famously, it's not Empedocles. It's one of his buddies. Oh, I'll think of his name in a minute. He walked around with a stimulant that he got from a root and grated it really fine. It was like a powder. And he would very famously snort the stimulant. And he kept it in his favorite Colt, C-O-L-T, Colt Huff. Colt Huff, right? Make that thing come alive, man. I'm looking at its tiny pee-pee. He kept it in a hoof.
Maybe keep the top on.
From a colt. C-O-L-T. And he
Colt.
Yeah, I think so. And he would sniff it. It was either that or a cow. I don't know. He would sniff it. And it would cause him to be able to, among other things, time travel.
Time travel?
Yeah.
With a stimulant?
Yeah.
Whoa.
They would do it in caves. And people would end up getting older. And you get these lifespans. If you don't believe me, check out the lifespan of Pythagoras. Pythagoras was going into caves and traveling through time. He lived in a cave.
Pythagoras?
Yeah. There was a famous, famous grottos and all that kind of stuff. What's that?
What the hell? No way. He lived 75 to 100 years.
No way.
75 to 95?
He lived that old?
No, he lives way longer.
What?
Yeah.
What was the average lifespan
Like-
of people back then?
200 years. Average lifespan is no different than yours.
Really?
Yeah.
The
no,
lifespan
no.
was the same.
No.
Pre-Christ.
The life expectancy, right? So statistically, more of us are likely to get killed off just in,
Yes, right.
childbirth and in war.
Right. Infant
Right.
mortality rate was like 50%.
Right. So there's a higher chance that you're going to die off before you reach your golden years. But that lifespan doesn't change.
Best case scenario-
They're still 80, 90 years old.
So if you're not dying from famine or war or
Right.
plague,
If
you're
you're
going to
not one-
live the same. Wow.
if you're not one of the statistics. But
Did they have cancer back then?
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it's as much.
Not as much cancer.
It's not as prevalent. They do have it, though. Yeah, they do have it.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they distinguish like different types of cancers and like what? Like
No.
were they removing? Did Galen
No.
ever do any tumor
He
removals?
did a breast. He didn't do a tumor removal. He did a reduction. So
he reduced the tumor.
He opened it up and then he took his hoobu jubu together and blah la hoo ha and put it in there. And next thing you know, it was reduced. And I know that the ingredient, one of them was the stuff that he was getting from the priestess on Lemnos, who made that. She made an awesome drug, dude. Yeah, it was a combo. They called it the Limnian Earth. It was a Metallica pharmaca. Do you understand? The pharmaca, in the plural pharmaca, those drugs that are Metallica. They come from the earth. She made the Limnian. She's also a lyre player, dude, so you got to give her that. And she
was a what?
A lyre player,
What
baby.
does that mean?
Guitars.
A liar. Oh.
Sexy guitar playing prophetess. and she makes drugs. And one of the drugs she made, Galen went out and got like 20,000 pills from her, and they have her little seal and everything. Everybody was getting them. It wasn't just Galen. He just wanted to get 20,000 of them, or however many.
Was Galen constantly doing drugs too?
You were doing drugs from the time that you were a baby and you have an earache. What do we give them? We give them all opium, dude. Your body is the way it is because you can't handle it, you hophead. If you were raised on it, yeah, you'd be different. And they describe this phenomenon, right? You become used to it, right? You become
your tolerance.
What we would
you build
say,
up tolerance.
What we'd say is tolerance. Yep, you do. So you got to keep giving. You got to keep giving. Well,
it's amazing that Galen was doing all this stuff, and he was cutting up bodies and studying anatomy and studying pharmacology and drugs, and at the same time he was like a philosophical writer, and he wrote 10% of the text that we have. 10% of the classical text is Galen, right?
Yeah. Now that's been an estimation. But I don't know if they figured that out on the TLG or something like that. If it is 10%, okay, great. Yeah. That's apparent to any classicist because you use research tools that are all marked by Galen. We figure out what a lot of words mean through Galen because he's so friggin' wordy.
Right.
Thousands of pages, baby. Just over and over and over again. So imagine this, Danny. Imagine that classicists ignore Galen. And they are, which they traditionally do, they
do ignore Galen.
Totally ignore Galen.
There was you sent me a recent dissertation from a guy in Europe.
Exeter, yeah.
Who did a dissertation all about Galen.
He did a translation of the Theriac to Paiso, in which he describes the Theriac that the emperor is on, Marcus Aurelius. You'd think those friggin' historians would want to know that stuff. Right? They make all these movies, Gladiator, ha! Right? They don't even know the real stuff is so much more interesting. You know what I mean? Somebody contact somebody. Personal drug empowerment. You know what I mean? How can you empower yourself? How can you take yourself to that next level? How do you grow? You've got to interact through those drugs, and that is a good thing. So you can see how it runs contrary to modern kind of thought.
Remember when I had a guy on here a few months ago and I asked you to give me sort of a boot camp in Plato?
Yeah.
And this guy was a Greek. He had a little bit of classical knowledge. His name's Flint Dibble, and he was an archaeologist in Athens.
Great.
And he knew some Greek stuff. And he was basically saying that Atlantis was all bullshit, that Plato...
Yeah, he's right. Plato's a dumbass.
Plato was a dumbass.
No, not a dumb. I don't mean like smart. I don't mean necessarily. I'm sure he was a hell of a lot smarter than I am. I don't think that people understand that Plato was a liar. He was a huge liar. And his Socrates is not even a real Socrates. And they have to constantly tell you that in these courses that you take on Plato, right? They have to constantly tell, well, this is Plato's Socrates. This isn't the Socrates.
So it's like they're insinuating, take it with a grain of salt because it's Plato.
Because it's Plato. He's a liar. And he made up the whole...
Was he a liar, or was he just like coming up with like abstract thought experiments?
The devil hates it. The devil hates it. You've got to mark that. He's a definite out and out liar. His Atlantis stuff is made up with sources that are made up. Everybody knew that then. He was even off in the number of years. Right? Oh my God. There is no Atlantis, people. Stop looking for it. It's a lie of Plato. Do you see how you got fingered? You went into the back alley of history and Plato stuck his finger somewhere. Yeah.
So so nothing he wrote was historical. Nothing at all.
He's a philosopher, dude.
He's a philosopher, right?
Yeah. A lot of, like you say, thought experiments. You know, if you're into that thing, dude, go for it. right? Go for it. And it's good stuff. And, it's got enough facts about Socrates, who was a great person, that you can pick up kind of a background of who this dude was. And really the only thing that matters about Socrates, and I will offend many of my colleagues, but I'll go ahead and do it. The only thing to like about Socrates is nothing that Plato said. It is what the oracle at Delphi said. She said Socrates was the wisest Athenian, right? Because he knows that he knows nothing. It was a big middle finger. It was a big middle finger to the Athenian intellectual establishment. Yeah, and it pissed him off, and what did they do? They fucking killed him. Yeah. Why is that? Because Socrates was the gadfly.
Didn't they give him an ultimatum?
Well, he could leave. He had a choice. He could leave in exile.
What would have happened if he left?
He could just leave all of his stuff and goes.
He'd rather die.
And he lived there all his life. Why would I do this, right? He was old, dude. Seriously? The hemlock's not bad, baby. That stuff kills you pretty quick. You know what I mean? He had his thing, but he was there as a gadfly. And from the oracle at Delphi, she was his muse. And she said, listen, you Athenian rich bastards, you know nothing. I'm going to send you the one who knows everything. And that guy said, I have no idea what's going on. Yeah. He was like the anti-smarty. And Plato turns him into his little toy. His little toy eunuch playing Plato. What else can we do with the eunuchs? Once you cut off their testicles, they've got to be useful for something. Do you know what they can be used for? Outside of Athens, there's a district where the tragedians get their boys. Because there's something in it, baby. There's something in the magic of the eunuch. They're for the kingdom of heaven. Do you understand? This is Jesus. This is Jesus. Did you want to know who Jesus is? This is why the people run from Ammon. And I want to adopt today. I just want everybody to know that I, Ammon, through the voice of Lady Babylon, I am telling you, I am the exorcist slayer. When Huff ran away, I was sad because I looked at it. I looked at a Huff meat and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to drain this guy. You know what I mean?
Do you want to, should we watch his response to you and we can break it down?
Oh, let's do that. The audience will know that he turned down 2 invitations right before.
Yes.
And after. Before
that's okay.
Crucified that guy and after he crucified that guy.
Poor baby Billy Carson.
Yeah. Oh, he was like a lamb.
You got to start around the 6.5 minute mark.
Okay. I'll be quiet.
Okay. So, there's a lot of people online that really want this guy to debate you. So let's listen to what his response is to your translation of the word Christ.
Yeah, perfect.
Here we go.
Eternal throne as the second person of the Trinity stepping into humanity. But if you were to say to someone after this, if someone said like, hey, you met Wes Huff, how was he? And you went, he's a little bit condescending. You wouldn't be talking about my humility.
No.
Right? Because that word has a different meaning in its different context. And part of the problem with something like what Ammon says is that he's taking terminology that exists within the parameters of a specific field, and then he's applying them in areas where there's an entirely different contextual meaning and spectrum of understanding.
It's a big
so
turd.
Part
Pinch
of what
it
he
off.
said that some people jumped on was that he says that the word Christ comes from the Greek word chrio, which
Yes.
it does, right? To anoint. And in ancient Greek medical texts, there is a usage of that, which he has capitalized on with applying drugs to your eyes. Now, more broadly, chrio does mean to rub, particularly a liquid ointment or substance on your body. So this relates to everything from bathing to ritual practices in religious circumstances. But you could likewise say if you were an ancient Roman and you had a bath and you came out and you put on skin cream,
Right.
so your skin didn't dry out, that was an example of chrio. You were applying it to your body. Well, within the religious connotation of Christianity, it is the translation of the Greek word Mashiach, Messiah, which likewise means anointed one, right? There were multiple anointed ones in the Old Testament. It was just a word that was referred to priests or kings and had a very specific connotation in the Mashiach who would come and be different. And the Greek translation of that, which both the Greek translation of the Old Testament and in the New Testament both use, is Christ. Why? Because it means anointed one. So Ammon takes that and he says, well, in this very specific instance, in this stream of classical medical literature, it means to apply a drug to your eyes, specifically
Yes.
in related to not the bot fly. What does he say?
The bot fly.
He relates it to a fly. And
I don't remember the detail, but
well, and it does mean
Wouldn't
that
you, moron?
in the particular instance that it's being used. But this is where semantic range is
Bullshit.
very important.
Semantic range.
Oh God!
And this is the problem that some
Hold on,
others
hold on.
have.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
yeah,
He's almost
should we
there.
pull up this clip, by the way? He's
about to climax.
There's context. I think I have it.
All right, fast forward
see,
through the
so
part
that-
where he plays the
because
clip. We don't need to play that again. Okay,
Is
there.
not says there, but you're saying that like he's stretching some of his knowledge on the pharmacological history of language and bringing that into, say, Jesus's lexicon and how he says things.
Yeah.
you know.
So there's two sort of terms that are used specifically within biblical studies, but this applies to anything within the ancient world where we're trying to come up with translations in deriving meaning. The first is there's a discipline called hermeneutics, and hermeneutics is this interpretation. It's the methodology of interpretation that we use on a particular text. Before hermeneutics is exegesis, and exegesis is a Greek word that literally means to bring out. Right, the opposite would be eisegesis, to read into. So when you're
fingering
exegeting
me.
something and you're looking at an ancient language, you're trying to get at the author's intention by different levels of contextual application.
He's
So
pulling the
there's
demon out of you.
Stop!
contextualization,
Stop!
there's
You're trying to
document
stop!
contextualization,
Stop!
there's
I can't take it! I
historical
can't take it! I can't take
You
it!
look
Please,
like you're
thank you.
going through an exorcism
Steve,
right now.
Steve,
Is
stop.
Wes
is
Huff pulling the
doing-
devil out of you right now?
God!
He's
Oh God!
confusing
Stop!
and
It's so
Haven't
confusing
you
bad.
ever heard of hermeneutics?
It's
realms of how we do
Stop. You're trying to get to the intention of the author. No, you're not. You're reading an ancient language.
Ammon, you're pulling out a specific context in Galen's medical text and trying to apply it to everything across the board,
Here's the problem.
which is intellectually dishonest.
Here's the problem. I'm not pulling it out of Galen. Does Galen have it? Yes. F***ing Euripides has it. He gets a sex drug that is a Christ. One of the characters asks, is it a Christ? This is not from the medical. This is from everything. Everything, Wes Huff, you fucking fake. Yeah, this is why he wouldn't face me. I can tell you right now, and I can tell your audience. Your audience must know. This man does not really read Greek. What is he, finishing his PhD?
He's finishing his PhD.
Yeah, he's finishing his PhD in biblical studies. You know what that means? It means he's had a couple of semesters of Greek. Yeah, he was able to say the name Xenophon. That was nice. Dude, does he read ancient Greek? No. That's why what comes out of his mouth is theological bullshit. This is not a craftsman. This is not a skill. This is theology taking you into a back alley and putting its finger in your butt. Yeah. And that's why he wouldn't face me. That's why he wouldn't. Let's read some Greek. Let's look at where it says Jesus. He wanted Mary to suck it down.
So who are
Sorry.
the other authors that say that Christ is applying a drug to your eyes besides Galen?
John, the apostle. Where is it? Where are they? This is, oh God. This is the Huff of the
He's
West.
saying it's only in a few places, and you're saying it's literally everywhere.
Here, get this. Focus on the camera. Here's some Greek for you, Wes. You idiot. It's in the book of Revelation, you moron. God tells them you better Christ your eyes so they'll be opened. You're not, Wes. You don't know what you're doing. You're a second-rate biblical scholar that will go down every time to a class and says, why, Wes? Because I read those f***ing texts. I love it.
How do you really feel?
Let me tell you. Sometimes I think I can feel their buttocks.
You're passionate about this,
I
aren't
think
you?
I can feel it. Well, it's what the devil gives you, man. It's what the devil gives you. Look, he's been pumped up in his pride. He thinks he's something now because he slaughtered somebody who was making stuff up. Well, guess what? This is the gymnasium of the cosmos, baby. Right? You'll be taken down. You'll be taken down by somebody who knows. Right? Oh, God. I love those class. Did you talk to any classicists? I would love to say, hey, why don't you get over here and start reading the text that you are. You know, Princeton just got rid of their Greek program, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, they did. You know why? It was because it's too hard. Can I just say right off the bat, Jesus did not drug children for sex. Jesus sucked the antidote out of underage boys. There's a big difference. He's balancing. He's balancing by using a theriac.
He wasn't getting joy out of it. He was just doing it to survive.
No, did you hear him? He was like, oh, God, take this cup away from me as he's standing there looking at this naked kid. Right? He's like, oh, God, take this cup away from me. I don't know. You know, he may have felt bad for him or something, but he knew that if he didn't get that, right, and it's not milky, it's clear at that age. Okay? And what comes out of it balances.
Yeah.
And he needed it. And because he didn't get it, that's why he's screaming on the cross, God, I'm so thirsty. And he starts rattling off magic names, Sabachthon. Oh, God. And then he just chunks off dead. And everybody's like looking at each other. And the guy with the antidote's looking at everybody else. And he's like, shit. Right.
And what?
Right.
And we mentioned this briefly on the first podcast, but what is the hard evidence that the two gentlemen crucified next to him were child traffickers?
It says that. It says, calls them all laceti. It says he was crucified in Mark between two laceti.
It's in Mark.
It's either a Mark. Yeah, it is a Mark. I went back and checked because it's in Matthew too, I think. But it's between two laceti. Yeah, it's in 14 after the 51-52 when he's with the naked kid. Mm-hmm. And by the way, these people like Wesley Huff, they're trying to say that the kid was not actually naked.
He was wearing a linen, and then it fell off when he ran away.
He ran out of his clothing.
So the logic behind that is, why would it fall off?
Right.
If it's a piece of clothing, it's tethered to you.
Right.
It's tied to you. It's wrapped around you so you can navigate, you can walk around, and it will stay on you. Right. If I run away, my pants aren't going to fall off.
Correct. And explicitly in the Greek, it's even marked in the Greek because it uses the expression epigumno, which is epi is just a preposition that's able to give you the positioning of something. So it's literally positioned on his nakedness.
Yeah.
It's on the part itself. It doesn't say he's a mummy or something, right? They want to turn him into a mummy. They're going to take this cloth and wrap him up like a mummy.
The word that they use, the word that they use for the linen wrapped around him in Greek it means a medicated bandage.
It's a medicated bandage, and they're used all over the place. So for people to mistake this, it's like it doesn't make sense historically. If you can either follow the fairy tale or you can follow the facts that are in the documents. Right? So Jesus is out there, remember. Where's Jesus hanging out? He's hanging out with demoniacs, baby. And they're all coming to him, right, for their cures. Right?
What was the party he was at in the back room? They said he was on the top level or something. This is what you talked about in the first podcast. He was doing something.
Yeah. There was some feet washing going on.
So
if I
why
remember correctly?
My question is, why was he washing feet
With his cloth?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why would you?
Why was he participating in the mystery in some back room somewhere and then decide to move the party out to a public park? Why? What's the necessity for being in the public park? Why not just stay in the shed, in the shack?
Yeah, why not just take your kid, the kid who's following him, and it ends up naked? Why not just take him in the upper room and do your thing in the upper room?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, that's a great question. If you'll notice, the only answer, I mean, I don't have an answer to that. The only, way you could approach it is a thought experiment. What do you do with the evidence? Okay, say we're before a judge and a jury. We have to present evidence. What's the evidence? At the time, Your Honor, he was stumbling around and confused and angry in the park. In the park. And he had 3 of his students standing at guard, and they were so drugged, they couldn't stay awake. They couldn't stay awake. Why? Because Jesus at this party Eucharized the cup. Do you understand? Jesus Eucharized, and everybody hears the fairy tale. Ha, ha, ha. Right? That's when he adds the drugs. That's when he makes the drink. They're going to put it on the bread. The shit is so potent, they're going to put it on bread. And when they give it to you, you get it. You are that eunuch. Why does he have to go to the public park? Because he's not there just to have sex with those boys. Jesus gets that all the time. He doesn't need it. Other people need it. You take the kids to the cemetery. You see, when Tiberius makes his island with his grottos, he's meeting a demand. People want to have with children. People want to have with children. Your Honor, I am standing before human history and I testify to you, madam. People want to have with children. And that's why you go to the public park. You prep them. He had to prep them. He's doing all the dirty dance for him, dangling dangleberry. Yeah, John sitting on his lap. Get off Jesus' lap, John. Get off.
And then why did he end up making out with Judas?
It's a thing.
Okay. It's a thing.
Yeah. Galilee.
It's just a thing.
Galilee boys. That's why the female prostitutes recognize. Who recognizes the earliest apostles? It's the girl prostitutes. There's nobody found that to be historically important. Yeah, it's the girl prostitutes.
Maybe the scholars just think it's better that we leave this behind us. It's not going to benefit us moving forward.
I'm sure every classicist hides their head and would never comment on this because they would be immediately fired if they did.
Like you did.
Right? Yeah, exactly. You can't open your mouth and talk about this stuff. It makes people uncomfortable.
It does.
And they actually have ways of getting rid of you. Okay, I don't know how it is now, but when they got rid of me, they would just charge you with making somebody uncomfortable. I've made somebody uncomfortable. Interesting. Do you know who I've made uncomfortable? Every fucking priest sitting in that audience who had been involved. Every one of them that chorus of beautiful college virgins. They pointed those right at those priests. They pointed them right at those priests. And they told them what they were. And for a minute, speech was free. And then they fired me. Which I'm pretty sure I had something to do with.
I also hadn't realized the first time you came on here was that when they fired you, you had already published your book about original sin.
Yeah.
So they caught wind of original sin, which you wrote before or after the Chemical Muse?
After the Chemical Muse.
You wrote that after the Chemical Muse.
Yes,
so
and
original
that-
sin. They probably got wind of that book and decided this guy's a cancer. We got to cut him out.
They didn't probably. There's no probably about it. Right? Monsignor Thomas Melvin came to me and said, "We know about your book, and I've been to 5 meetings about you." I said, "I'm glad. Did you read the book?" And he's like, "Yeah, we read the book." And it goes from there. And people want to deny that there was a hearing that was held, some kind of inquiry into my state of possession. And people want to poo-poo that. If you go talk to Tom Melvin, he'll tell you. He's a vicar general now, I think. But
Tom Melvin?
Yeah, Monsignor Tom Melvin. He's a great guy. He was one of my students. And he was a Catholic, former Navy. Mm-hmm. And he had morals like any soldier. I mean, he was, what is it? Oh, God, it was a donkey. They call it the donkey dick. When the helicopter comes over the carrier, listen to what this guy did. He ran out with what they call the donkey dick and attached it to the cargo nets.
Yeah.
And then to the bottom of the helicopter. That was his job.
Oh, wow.
Right? While the boat is pitching and stuff, right? So it's pitching, but you can't see it when you're on it. So that helicopter, he said, that thing's going up and down a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I bet.
So he said it can be quite dangerous. And anyway, he went to a meeting. Tom, I'm going to tell him because you're a good man. I used to give confession to Tom. I loved it. It was good. I loved it. Tom said that he was involved. His position, just to give you a little bit of history, he was a punisher. He was the one who investigated priests who had gone astray. Yeah, he knew everything. Servers, all that kind of stuff, they watched. And when the stuff got bad and people got involved and stuff, he had to go in and be the punisher. And he was mad. He was mad, man. He was mad at the attitude. Flippant. More angry about being caught than being wrong. And he said he came in one day and Tom Melvin, I'll never forget this. I looked at him sitting there across having a coffee in the school cafeteria. There was a little shop, buy burritos and stuff like that. And he's sitting there and he goes, I wanted to take a baseball bat to his head. And I just got the image of him here, and this priest is sitting here. Thinks he can get away with it and is pissed off that you're investigating. Like he has some right. He has some right. They do. They have a historical right. They've been doing that since Jesus was doing it.
And some people online have gotten a hold of your deposition.
Yeah.
Some sort of deposition where the lawyers were interrogating you about some sort of dream molesting that you were doing, and you showed me some clips of that where they were asking you about, you claimed that you were like Pan and emailing people and all this weird stuff.
Yeah, 7-hour deposition.
7-hour deposition.
The guy was yelling, "Are you the God Pan?" My attorney's going, "Objection!" Right, but in a deposition, there's no ruling. You just get to enter that it's an objection. Right. So they want to know about my cult. And was I running a cult, and were there goats involved? And drugs involved, and virgin Catholic girls. Oh, God. That was the good part. I was like, well, you guys are sick, right? But it's made for good fiction, right? And that's why the objection, right? Oh, God, people were saying I was floating.
Yeah, I read that.
Right? So, okay. Anyway, that was the dirty part. Let's not talk about that dirty part. I did dirty things floating around.
Yeah, apparently you did. Allegedly.
Dude, you know that's inadmissible. You're right. It's you got the perfect alibi. If you can harness that incubus, fly across time and space to ravage the maidens and the sororities. Oh, God. Who would not? Steve, come on, man. Let's go. Let's go. Tonight, I'll show you. And you and me.
You'll teach me the ways.
I will. I love it.
All right. That's all,
It's
folks.
a wrap.
Thank you, Ammon. That was fantastic.
Danny, I want to thank you, and I want to tell all of people, the congregation of Satan, please, from Lady Babylon, please, tell Danny thank you. Put it in your comments and tell him, Danny, you're so sexy, right? We want these. No, it's important, Danny, because the people have been telling me they hunger, just like I do. They hunger for the feast. Please bring me a New Testament scholar, please. Please bring me 2, Danny, if you can. Bring me a couple, right? And it will be absolutely delicious. And it won't just be me feasting. It will be the congregation feasting as well. I want you to know they've been harping on me. When are you going to do it? When is it coming, Danny? Right? We need it. And by the way, people, they used to do this in antiquity, right? The Christians and the leading pagans of the day would have debates. And they would talk about stuff and they would confront.
Yes.
And that's what's so important. Any of these scholars that doesn't want to confront, it's because they're trying to cover their ass so they can make some more money to buy a bigger boat. And we got to tell these people to fuck themselves. Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. Good night, everybody.